Ladies and gentlemen,
Arr.
welcome in to going the JC route. I'm
You're in a
JC.
good mood.
That's the Birdman. Our third wheel is missing currently. He may join us later. Nevertheless, we are happy to be back. It has been one hell of an adventure the last week. And
Mostly disappointing
I honestly wish our
for
third wheel
me.
was here so I could finally talk some noise. But this is stupid. I'm gonna take my hat off. Uh, ladies and gentlemen, it was a hell of a week for your Oklahoma Sooners. Let me tell you. After
Not
all
mine.
the noise that Texas fans were throwing out there, and I know, I said this in our group chat. It normally I'll allow the smack talk, right? Like it,
Yeah,
you dish it out, you dish it out,
it's
right?
part of the game. It's part of the game.
This year, more than what it feels like most recent years, the amount of Texas fans that were talking so much noise and were completely convinced that there was no chance in hell that Texas loses was exhausting, annoying, disappointing, tragic,
And
obnoxious, whatever you want to
yeah,
call it, right? There was just so many unbelievably high and mighty Texas fans this year that just were completely convinced there was no shot in hell Texas was losing. And we hear the same old argument. They ain't played nobody, Paul, right?
yeah.
But that's why you play the games, right? You play the
You know, you
games.
know, and a lot of those people that probably were doing a lot of smack talk have not watched near the amount of football that you, I, or even Aiden have. I mean, if you watch it long enough, you will real, especially a rivalry as storied as Red River. And we talked about this last week, where I picked them to win by double digits, but it's also one of those things that it's a rivalry game where some of the most unpredictable stuff has happened. So you're talking about a game where anything can happen, and we saw that. I mean, the first quarter alone was absolutely insane. There was so much insanity going on with that game.
We were at
And
the game talking back and forth, and we're like, this first quarter took over an hour.
mhm.
It would just
I
never
was
end.
sitting here, I was sitting here watching the game, and I was like, "Oh my gosh!" What was it? There was a block punt. There was that interception by yours. There
Two
was,
interceptions, uh, a fumble that got overturned, the blocked punt, a fake punt.
yeah,
It was drunk.
yeah. No, it was, and but that's how it is. And you talk like going back to those people that were talking all that noise. It's like most of the time when you talk noise and you think nothing bad can happen, that's when all hell will break loose. For as far as Texas fans go, I mean, and the thing is that as that was a game they could have won, and a couple bad decisions were made on offense and on defense that cost them that game.
Well, and that's exactly why I picked Texas to win the game, even
Mm-hmm.
though on like if you really look at into the numbers on paper, Oklahoma's just as talented as Texas. Yes, Texas has more high end 5-star talent, but blue chip ratio is actually lower than Oklahoma's, right? But because we know they have
I
so much
think
talent, even though they lost the turnover battle, like net 3 basically, uh they're within one score of the game, right?
yeah.
Now, part of that is special teams, which Oklahoma had
Mm-hmm.
a horrendous day on special teams. Terrible punts, the blocked punt, missed field goal. Because you think about it, right? If you make the field goal and don't have the blocked punt, that's a 10-point swing right there. All of
Yeah.
a sudden, it's 37-23, and it's not really close, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that's why you need those things to bounce your way. because you can make a game a lot closer than you'd hope.
Mm-hmm.
But all that talent's reason why I picked Texas to win. But when you don't play a good game, well, and here's the argument that I want to get your opinion on, right? Was it as much Texas did not play their best game, or did Oklahoma play so well that they forced Texas into playing a bad game?
I think you had a combination of both. Because I said
Well,
that I've also
the way
said that
because the way I think about it is I'm thinking about a lot of those big plays, right? The interception on the first drive, the
Mm-hmm.
the big hit on Sanders that led to another interception, the forced fumble,
Mm-hmm.
the goal line stand, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those are situations where one, Oklahoma watched film, right? Like if you go back and watch that first interception on the first drive, you can see the linebackers recognize the formation and say, "Hey, adjust." And then Gentry Williams gets in the exact situation and basically runs the route for the receiver.
Mm-hmm.
The goal line stand, a lot of that is, or we can, and then we can talk about the fumble, the goal line stand, and the other interception. Those are all want plays. That's will plays, right? Oklahoma came into this game with the mindset, we're not losing this game.
Well,
They're not going out.
I think it's a combination where you have a lot of guys on y'all's side that were there and watched half of the stands disappear because it was so bad last year. And then on the flip side, you had a bunch of Texas guys that were there that saw what happened. And y'all may have a better blue chip ratio, but to this point, it's
Doesn't matter when you
been
don't have a
unproven.
quarterback.
It's unproven that too. But so far it had been unproven, and Texas, had beaten they beat Alabama, which I don't know. We'll see. We'll monitor that to see how that is. But they've beaten some teams, so I think OU just they remembered what happened last year, and I think Texas did too. And Texas played a certain way, and then OU just they were determined to get that win. But Texas also, I said this, Texas at times they come into certain games, and this is it's the rivalry game, so you shouldn't be. I feel like you should be prepared for it no matter what. But given the circumstance of what happened last year to this year, I just feel like they just at times looked unprepared.
Gotten what?
Or over prepared.
Oh,
I said I feel like at times with Texas, it felt like they were like not prepared for that.
Oh, I think there's definitely an aspect of we beat this team 49-0 last year. We're gonna rock up and beat them again.
Versus,
Yeah,
it's like if
Oklahoma came in of, hey, that 49-0 happened last year. We're not gonna let that happen again, because it was very apparent that not only did they religiously watch film before this game, but also they said we're not going to be out physical, we're not going to be out efforted, we're not going to be out coached. We're going to go in there and whip these boys. At the end of the day, Texas's talent kept them in that game, and Oklahoma's special teams gaffes kept Texas in the game. But other than that, Oklahoma went in there and whipped those boys in a lot of phases of the game. I mean, when you have that pass over the middle to Sanders and Billy Bowman says, "I'm going to go in here and put my shoulder in your chest," that's a statement. When Ethan Downs sacks Quinn Ewers at the end of the game and he stands over him and yells at him, now, should that have been a penalty? Maybe. Like, let's be honest. But when you get that kind of thing, they're bought in. They're not letting that happen, right? And it was really, really fun to see, because not only was that an incredible game, and I'll get our buddy in here soon as well. Not only was that a great game, but
hi guys.
Oh,
You interrupted JC.
your
Hi
sound is
guys.
terrible.
My sound is terrible.
You interrupted JC. Whenever we get to Cowboys, we'll let you have the floor. Go ahead.
He can stay here. Let's keep going. Let us keep going for a minute. What I was saying, not only was that a great game to watch back and forth, but you have you've had the tail. The time as old as the tail as old as time, right? You've got the more prepared team against the more talented team, and the more prepared team won. Because talent will only take you so far, preparation and effort will take you far.
Mm-hmm.
And you could tell that Oklahoma was the more prepared team, the more physical team, and honestly the better team on the field. Like when Texas gets first and goal on the 1 and they get turned away 4 straight times, they're doing that because they want to. They're prepared to, right? And I actually went back and watched a breakdown of the film. The first play, Texas comes out in a set they hadn't shown all year, right? And you've got your 230-pound linebacker going up against a 360-pound defensive tackle and winning, getting through the gap. The second play, the stretch to the right, you have terrible execution on the offensive line. The defense makes you pay for it. The third play, they get back in the same freaking set as the first play, and the defense wins again. I mean, you have Ethan Downs, a good defensive end, going up against Kelvin Banks and ragdolling him. He goes up, shocks him, throws him, and makes a play.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of noise for a guy that they said was going to be an All-American this year. And then the last play is perfectly read. You got your 2 corners on the stack set to the left. One guy sheds the block, the other guy makes a play. They wrap him up and keep him out of the end zone. That's preparation. That's discipline.
Yeah, it was definitely a more prepared team playing against a team that thought it was going to be more of a cakewalk. But I mean, it was definitely a far more talented Oklahoma team than it was last year. And I can't wait until we see this in the Big 12 championship game, because there's going to be a lot more fun. It's going to be a lot more fun then.
I would rather
unfortunately,
lose this
that's looking like a distinct possibility.
I mean, there's nobody else. I mean, the Big 12 is not great.
Unless West Virginia wants to play spoiler. All I'm saying.
That's a chance. Anyway.
Yes, we can hear you, and we're ignoring you.
Fuck off. I was actually coming on to say good game, and hey, the better team won.
Yeah, 100%. That's literally what we were saying is Texas is still the more talented team, but Oklahoma was the more prepared team that day.
I think it's going to be. Oh, sure. I think what we're probably going to get, and I don't know, because I don't know.
Obviously,
you can't look too far ahead. You can't look too far ahead at all. But if it does go to the Big 12 championship, where we play again, I think it'll be a reverse of what happened during the Kyler Murray year.
Sure.
Because now, psychologically, right? Now it's like, okay, you really can't go in there like thinking that you're the big dog and like that you're just going to win solely on talent alone. You can't do that. So it's what it is. But James, I got to give my hats off to you. I got to give my hats off to you, man. Could you not interrupt me? So anyway,
Jesus,
the match is set, boys. I'm also driving, so I can't hear as well. So if I'm screaming, it's because I'm driving.
Yeah, we're gonna hit one more thing, and then you could talk about the Cowboys.
Yeah, we were talking, and you joined in and disrupted.
My bad.
But
my bad.
All right, so we got one more thing to talk about, and then we're gonna give you the floor.
Cuss at us all you want.
You can discuss. You can discuss and scream all you want about what the Cowboys did on Sunday. Anyway, But
I'm not necessarily going
yes,
to scream. I'll get to that later. Go ahead, talk.
JC.
But yes, so carrying on,
Hello.
the Oklahoma Sooners now have a clear path the rest of the season. I mean, you have undefeated in conference play, West Virginia. You have at BYU. But other than that, you go to Lawrence. Does that really scare you?
No.
No, but it's like a it's not a scary thing, but it's more like let's just take care of business type thing.
Yeah. Well, and I'm
I
sure
don't
did
want
see-
to get so
I'm sure Jalen Daniels is gonna be healthy too.
I did see that OU
so
lost one of their corners and one of their wide receivers for the year.
Andrew Anthony's out for the year. Gentry Williams got hurt during the game, but it was more a dehydration thing than anything. He'll be fine.
Even though it wasn't like temperature hot, the sun just made it hot.
Oh yeah. So it was about 70 degrees outside, gorgeous while we're walking around the fair. But you get in the Cotton Bowl and it's just a steam bath reflection tank with the sun, and the sun cooks everybody. I mean, we're all there dying, just the sun destroying us. I've got sunburns all over the place. I know everybody else that was with us do as well. But that is definitely an experience, definitely a fun game. And you got that energy going back and forth, right? That's what makes
was that
Red
the
River
coolest?
best. What?
Was that the coolest that Red River's been in a while? Like I
It's
know
been a
that
long time.
the sun got to y'all, but like it had to be a pretty because I remember past Red Rivers for y'all. Wasn't it pretty hot?
So yes, the closest thing I could think to it was 2019, the Jalen Hurts year. It was
Mhm.
legitimately like 65 at game start,
Oh, that's nice. Okay.
and so it was
Okay, that was
relatively similar to this year.
okay.
But every other year we've gone, it's been pretty freaking hot. Just
Yeah.
cooked them. And those things, like I said,
Mhm.
walking around the fair before and after was really, really nice because it's legit 72 degrees outside. But just sitting in that reflective bowl of bleachers, man, that's a
Oh yeah.
hell of an experience.
I bet.
Because it didn't necessarily feel too hot. It's just the sun was baking you the entire time.
Yeah, the sun
Yeah.
fucking baked you to death.
But
You turning,
you
you
just
not
said.
turning. What the fuck you doing?
but back to the game.
Fuck you.
Back to the game. The one thing that the one other thing I saw debated at length before the game was Dylan Gabriel's inability to perform versus in big time moments versus what Quinn Ewers has done this year, and the back and forth argument of is Quinn Ewers actually good or not.
Mhm.
Quinn Ewers is good. He was very good during the game, but he got outplayed still. And the story that I feel like not enough people are talking about so far is to this point in his career, Dylan Gabriel's kind of folded in his biggest games. Well, this year, in his biggest game by far, in his collegiate career at least, he stepped up to
Yeah.
the plate. Now, again, was he about the same, maybe even a little below his average as far as throwing the ball? Sure. You're going to have that when you come up against a good defense. But what OU did was they said we're going to unleash something that we haven't necessarily shown this year. We're going to run the ball. And Dylan Gabriel's ability to run the ball was a massive difference maker in the game.
It did. It was. Definitely
Because
wasn't. He didn't. I mean, yeah. He definitely didn't throw it well. I mean, all fantastic or anything like that. But I mean, that last drive that he had. Now, granted, the Texas defense helped, but that last drive that Texas had or that
see,
OU
and this
had
is this
to win the game was.
that exact point.
Go ahead.
Say that exact point is what I mentioned earlier. that Texas got out coached as well. Brent Venables and the Oklahoma staff said, we're going to coach as if our hair is on fire. We don't care what we have to do. If we have to go for it on fourth down, if we're going to go say, hey, we're going to go win the game here, we're going to play aggressive, this and that, blah, 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 blah. Versus Sark almost was coach scared because on their last drive, they could have very easily run the clock out. They didn't. They played for a field goal instead of saying, hey, we're going to get a touchdown.
Sark actually talked about that in his post-game press conference. Even on Monday, he talked about that.
Good for him.
Well, no, I'm making your point. He said that he made decisions that ended up biting him in the butt. So, to your point, you are correct.
Yeah. And they left more than enough time on the clock for an offense that's designed to go fast. And then when Texas got on defense, they said, hey, we're going to play prevent. We're going to play safe. Well, guess what? When you play safe, teams get chunk yards, right? Like,
oh yeah,
Dylan, you get one pass to the left, you get some yards. You go to Farouk on the right, get some Stoops to the left, get some decent yards. Farouk to the right, breaks the tackle, gets some more yards. Then you get the broken down pocket on the third play. Dylan acts like he's going to run it, throws it to Stoops in the middle, gets a lot of yards. And then the next play is the pass interference on the side. And now all of a sudden you've got 1st and goal inside the 20, inside the 15.
And then a wide open touchdown to cap it all off.
Exactly. To be fair, that was a beautifully designed play to target a freshman. Because what happened was in the slot on the right, freshman Derek Williams, 5-star freshman, albeit, was on Nick Anderson. When he then came across the formation to the left, Derek Williams never communicated to Benda and Thompson that he's passing it off. Like he just didn't communicate it. And so when when Anderson ran through, Thompson and Benda basically ran into each other. He's open, and then Dylan Gabriel stood in the pocket, which, to be fair, has not been his MO so far. He stood in the pocket and delivered a ball. Which, honestly, if that ball doesn't come out there, it's probably a sack because our left tackle got left out to dry a little bit. But he blocked 2 guys on that play.
Yep. It was a tremendous game, tremendous finish. Curious, and can't wait to see if they play again later this year. Are we ready to talk about the Rangers yet?
I'd say, just to wrap it up, I'm definitely excited as an OU fan. I'm not going to get too high yet because while our schedule sets up for us nicely, I've been burnt too much in the past of, hey, we're gonna have a game where we don't show up. We'll see if that actually happens this year, but it's going to be a sprint to Arlington at this point, right?
It's a favorable schedule for sure.
I mean,
it's even more favorable for UT. They don't play anybody ranked. By the way, is there somebody tapping or something?
It was.
Jesus, what kind of freaking rookie show is this? Amateur hour.
I just hear this fucking tapping in my headphones, and it's just loud as shit.
What amateur hour? Goodness.
But no,
you're absolutely right. Both of our teams have a favorable schedule. I mean, the toughest opponent left on Oklahoma's schedule is Kansas, and Texas has legitimately nobody. But I mean, to be fair though, I feel like I've put emphasis on it on OU schedule. I feel like Texas fans haven't put enough emphasis on it. That game against BYU is going to be harder than you think.
Oh, sure. Totally agree.
They may not be overly talented, but they are physical.
They'll give you a game.
Oh, yeah. They've got a bunch of grown Mormon men that are grown men and are going to physical the shit out of you. And if there's anything we learned from Red River is Texas can be out physicaled if they don't pay attention.
And if they don't prepare for it.
If you don't pay attention and you let you let BYU to get physical with you, you're bound and determined to lose that game. So yes, both of us have favorable schedules. Texas, I'd argue, is more favorable than Oklahoma's, but don't downplay that BYU game. Hell, don't downplay the Houston game. Even though Houston's bad, you have to go to Houston, and they're going to be up for that game.
Bottom line, don't downplay any team.
I'm not afraid of Dana Holgerson.
Country roads.
I am not afraid.
Well, and to be fair, I feel like not enough people are talking about it now. Now that's actually relevant. Oklahoma has to play West Virginia and Texas doesn't. West Virginia is a sneaky 4-1 right now.
That could be an interesting. That'll be an interesting game for sure.
Well, that's what I'm saying is, as it stands right now, if we're not careful, West Virginia could play spoiler for Texas, and because say what happens is if West Virginia plays Oklahoma and beats us, and then everybody else has one loss in the conference, well, Texas is the last man out because of head-to-head.
Theoretically.
And it would be Oklahoma and West Virginia in the championship. So that's really where Texas is hoping West Virginia not only loses to Oklahoma, but loses in another game as well.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see how it plays out. But yes, because I know that you guys want to talk about it. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a battle for Texas in the ALCS.
Before that, though, we good game though, James. That was a fun game. I hope we get to have our rematch. I'm virtually shaking your hand while at a stoplight.
Okay.
I hope we get to have our rematch. I do like though. Like I seriously believe if we rematch, I would bet every dollar I got it's going to be the Kyler Murray year. I firmly believe that. So, but
I do think that assuming there's a rematch, Texas will become better prepared than they did this game.
Oh yeah, and motivated. That's for damn sure. And just on the sole fact in college, it's hard to beat a team twice. Even in general too. But
100%.
Not just college, but that's my theory. But we'll see. We got to get there first. We cannot.
Well, that's what I'm saying. As it stands now, Texas isn't even in it. They're in third place behind West Virginia at the moment.
If West Virginia loses though to Oklahoma, then I think it just comes down to say we both finish with the same.
Then we've got some other tiebreakers that have to happen because y'all don't play West Virginia, but we'll see how that goes. If West Virginia is to beat Oklahoma, that's when shit gets interesting.
Yeah.
And would it be interesting if Oklahoma let West Virginia beat us on purpose? Just to screw
I don't think
with Texas.
No, I don't think that would happen because that would be interesting in theory, but on the literal side of me, if that did happen, say OU laid an egg somewhere else and Texas did not and West Virginia did not, then oops. So
we'll have to see.
Anyway.
But like I said, ladies and gentlemen, the state of Texas runs the American League. You have our fighting Texas Rangers against the cheaters of Houston, the Asterisks.
The Disastros, the Trastros, the Shitstros, the Fuckstros.
Okay, don't say that.
It almost feels like this was inevitable.
It does. I don't know about you guys. I don't know. I still have zero expectation from our Rangers right now, just from a mindset, because I've been disappointed so much with my teams in my life. But
I still have zero expectations, but it definitely feels like we're getting hot at the right time.
But the thing is that kind of worries me. We've won what? I don't know what you're getting at. We've won 5 in a row. Baseball's streaky. So we're hitting.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It feels like we're getting hot at the right time.
Well, I think we've been hot.
We're not going to win every game. I understand that.
That's true. You know, I don't know. Part of me feels
But
like that.
that being said, things are clicking at the right time.
Well, part of me thinks it's this
The Rangers
too.
are putting
Like,
up points. Our
take,
starters are going deep into games.
Well, take OU versus Texas for example. Like, it's the same. It's the same type of principle. Like,
Hey, you cut
Hey, you
out.
completely cut out.
What's going on?
Now we're echoing. Is this better?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yes.
You're echoing. I gotta mute you. I don't know why you're echoing, but I had to mute you. It's terrible.
It's really bad.
What was I saying? What were we talking about? Oh yeah,
We were talking about the Rangers.
It feels like everything is for the Rangers at the moment is peaking at the right time. Please stay muted. You were echoing terribly.
Muted. You were echoing terribly.
I can't. Like, I'm hearing myself.
So am I. I hate hearing that too.
I can't. I'm sorry. Like, we're sorry, Aiden, but like we're hearing ourselves in your mic. It's terrible.
Yeah.
What we're saying is, it feels like just about every position is peaking at the right time. We're putting up points.
What?
Our starters are going deep into games, and the 2 or 3 relievers that we're playing are solid. Like, Spores has been awesome. Leclerc's been nails, and Chapman's been a head case as usual.
Yeah, he's had his issues. I think AJ was, making this point earlier before he had the technical difficulties. We've been on a very good streak, and but we've been very good for on this road from the wild card to the ALDS. But at some point it's going to be, that offense is going to hit a wall, and you're hoping that it's not during the Astros game, but series, because that's when we need it the most. The offense is going to need to show up for the Astros series, and as good as we've been against Tampa and against Baltimore, Houston's to me a different. We can talk, joke about the trash throws and the asterisks and all this other stuff, but they're still a very talented team with a lot of experience.
100%. There's no doubt.
Yeah, very, very good team with a lot of experience, and they know what it takes to make it to the World Series. And so far, when it's come head to head, we've been, besides the first series of the year, we've been absolutely just dreadful against them. And
to be fair, the last couple of series we played against them, we're also in our little bit of our downspin, so it's definitely not helping. If you're in a downturn and you play a good team, naturally you're gonna lose games, right? And,
but another thing, you need the rotation to go 6-7 innings, because like how many games would we have won had the bullpen not cost us? I mean, we would have won the division a month ago.
Oh, we had I want to say we had like 20 or 30 something blown saves this year. Ridiculous. I mean, we're talking about winning almost 120 games if we don't blow saves.
Yeah. So you need the bullpen to show up, or the rotation to show up and play and pitch as many innings as possible. And there's still a chance that you might blow it, because what was it? Game 2 up over in Baltimore, we almost lost that one, and that was a 5-10 ball game whenever Leclerc came in.
Oh yeah.
Or actually, whenever Chapman came in.
Yeah, and that's the thing is we have so much depth in the starting rotation. Honestly, I'm tempted to start throwing guys in the bullpen, right? Like we did that with Heaney, right? Heaney's been back and forth from the bullpen, and he had to start that game against Baltimore, and he was actually really, really good. And but we've got flexibility with that stuff now. You got Heaney, you got Perez, you got Dunning, guys like that, and you're probably going to need one of those guys to start in our series, since it's now a 7-game series instead of a 3 or a 5 game series. I mean, Rangers are probably going to start Montgomery, and you've got Evo probably game 2, and so the third game is going to come down to who am I? I'm missing somebody. Who am I missing? Probably Dunning. Honestly, I'd start Heaney. Heaney's been really good. Unless for some reason he's a terrible matchup against the Astros, which wouldn't surprise me at all. Heaney's probably been the most consistent pitcher, like next year. But then, I mean, you still got Dunning, you've got Gray, you've got Perez, whoever you want to use in those games. But if you can get it down to a 4-person rotation, I think you probably go Montgomery, Evo, probably Heaney and Dunning.
Okay.
And then you go again. But if those guys are on their game, we're gonna have a really good shot. If for whatever reason they start getting knocked out early, it's gonna turn into a rough series pretty quickly.
Is there a prediction?
I mean, I'm probably gonna stick with the Astros just because
I am too.
They're the experienced ones, and they seem to have our number more often than not. That being said, I did see a statistic earlier in the year that early in the season there was like only been like a dozen or so teams in history that had our run differential that the Rangers had, and almost every single time those teams had either gone to and just about every time those teams had gone to the World Series, whether they win it or lose it. I think all but 1 or 2 only got to the ALCS or the conference championship game. So I feel like if we are truly getting hot at the right time, which I think we are, we have a really good shot to move on. And so it's going to be really, really tight to see what happens. And I mean, you think that you've got to think Verlander's starting game 1, right?
Yeah.
And so I feel like if we can get him beat, we've got a good shot. If he comes out and dominates, it's not a good omen. So I'm gonna say Astros in 7, but I think the Rangers have. I
think it definitely depends on how we look throughout the series. I say Astros. Now, if we look like we've done offensively and we can go deep in the inning with the starters, I think we lose in 6. But if it's but if it's where we struggle like we have against them, I can see a gentleman's sweep happen 4-1, where maybe we find a way to win a game somewhere and then they just take care of the rest. Nevertheless, though, as disappointing as it's been, not winning the division after we've had it for so long and, all this other stuff. I mean, to make it to the ALCS after 10 years of mediocrity, and you talk about another franchise that is in the same across the street that's living in mediocrity for the last 30 years. I mean, it's been a remarkable turnaround from 2 years ago and last year to this year.
I mean, so they've fully, at this point, I think it's comfortable to say the Rangers have fully outdone the expectations of most people this year.
By far, yeah.
Well,
yes, absolutely.
And I think it's an interesting dynamic because the expectations of the fans and the expectations of the front office were completely different this year. The front office for 2-3 years have been saying 2023 is the year we're going to go for it all. Based on the progress the last few seasons, all the fans have been like, well, we'll see it when we believe it because it doesn't necessarily look like we're going anywhere fast, right? And that's why coming into the season, a lot of fans, including myself, were saying, hey, if we're competing for a playoff spot, maybe we sneak in, maybe we don't. That's progress.
I said the same thing.
Next year we should be.
I said the same thing.
We should be in the playoff hunt, right? Mm-hmm. This year we start so hot. We're in the first place for most of the year. We're like, okay, this is weird. Then they go on their slide. Everybody's pissed off and miserable. X, Y, and Z.
But
They
they-
still make it in the playoffs. And you go, okay, they basically did what we thought they were going to do, right? Be
we were
good
content.
enough to get a wild card spot and see what happens from there.
For the most part.
And now we can say, hey, now we're in the the ALCS. We have the best odds to win the World Series at the moment. And a lot of people are picking us to win it. So I feel like at this point in time, it's really fair to say that the Rangers have outlived expectations, and we'll see how it goes.
Yep, we will.
Okay.
Yeah. Is AJ still around? Because I know he has.
I'm going to try and see, but it's important.
Honestly, I'm going to mute myself if he's coming on, because I know he's got a lot to say, and I'm just going to sit back and let him.
I know we
talk.
have to talk about this. Unfortunately, it's part of the theme of the show this week. The Dallas Cowboys, man. It feels like we just ride a constant roller coaster, and we're feeling high one week. They kick us in the balls, and then we get high another week, and we'll see how it goes, right?
Well, but we talked about this two weeks ago. This is going to be the test. I mean, we talked about it, I think, after the Jets game, or the Jets game or the Cardinals game, where it's like, okay, we've beaten these teams, but let's see what we do against the Niners. And that test came up, and we didn't study. We were thoroughly outperformed. Now,
they said, screw it, we're showing up, no prep.
Yeah, no, they were like, I can take this test off of no sleep, but like, on your best day, the Niners are still 10 points, a 10-point favorite, but there's no excuse for the way we played against them. And I'm going to let him talk on this because I know he's got a lot to say.
So real quick, because I've been listening for about 10 minutes.
Sound is good, so we're ready to go.
Yeah, my bad.
I'm sorry.
What the fuck? No, like work was blowing up my phone while trying to talk to you.
This is amateur hour, dude.
I'm in the fucking car and work was blowing up my phone while trying to do this. So I'll say this. It's kind of like, going back to the Rangers real quick. I like our chances just because the Astros probably think they have a pushover with us. And I think we're going to go in there with the biggest chip on our shoulder. So we'll see what happens.
I don't disagree.
So we'll see. Before I get into it, there's a particular player that I am going to bring up time and time again. So, James, I love you like a brother, but I need you to be as open-minded as possible here. So,
well, and I'm going to preface this, right? I told Chris this, and I'm sure I told you this. I did not watch this game this weekend.
Oh, fuck. Okay.
Other than seeing the final score, I have no idea what happened in this game.
So
I have not watched any video. I have not watched any highlights. I saw the final score. I'm just gonna let you guys go at it.
I'm gonna need.
I've forgotten most about it.
I'm gonna need a minute. I have listened to the radio at nausea this week. I have pages of notes on my phone about this. This was by far, like, our offense has been iffy at best this season so far. This was by far the worst that this offense and this team in particular has been throughout the season so far. Granted, it's only week 5, but still, it has been atrocious. And this, honestly, we played the 49ers 3 times in the past three years, and this was the worst that we have looked. And honestly, I mean, it is. This is by far the worst loss that we have had against the 49ers. And
we could
Dak in this game
the first 2 times.
Well, sure, of course. But Dak in this game looked so uncomfortable this game and just so not there. After all week, this team, and Dak in particular, said, we're motivated. We're treating this just like that they're treating this like a rewrite the script game and like a playoff game.
And Dak even said, and I quote, after the win last weekend, congratulations, you've pissed me off, end quote. You just got your ass handed to you. Upwards, downwards, sideways. You got fucked in the ass by a team that just treated this like, it's another game. Literally, as nonchalant as possible. And Dak, this game, I'm going to be honest with you. Like, even before the interceptions, which I'll get to that later, the quarterback last year and the year before that was slinging the ball and throwing interceptions, honestly looked hell of a lot better than whatever the fuck you and I witnessed, Chris, because we watched the game at your place. He looked a lot better then than he did this past Sunday night. And they got bullied. They straight up did. They got pushed around and bullied offensively and defensively for sure. And I'm not going to put when I get more into Dak specific, I'm not putting like this loss all on Dak. This loss was not on him. I mean, all three phases of the game were bad. Your offense was bad. Your blocking was bad. Your defense was bad. Your discipline was bad. Your coaching was bad. Everything about it was bad. But it just kind of changing focus and going more Dak specific. Dak is on year 8 of being in the NFL, and it's still not better. And I mean, I honestly don't know, like the last good team that Dak beat was, like, honestly, like in a big crucial game. I honestly can't tell you. I could probably go back and look, but the problem is that we can't name a game off the top of our heads, and that within itself
I could try.
is an issue. It's an issue. Like, we can try, but like it should take no thinking, no effort.
I mean, the first game that came to mind is the Bucks in the playoffs last year.
Nope.
But you can argue.
Okay,
No.
no. Chris
That's a
and
bad
I have
Tampa
talked
team.
about that. That is a
That's
bad Tampa team.
That's a bad Tampa team. I'm not counting that. I'm not counting.
I'm not either. And you finally need to start all of the Dak lovers.
Okay, how about this? We beat the Eagles on Christmas last year.
Okay, a regular season game. That's one. But
He does well against the division too.
He does well against the division, but a prime time game against a massive opponent or in the playoffs. He hasn't beaten a great team in a big game. He hasn't done it. He probably has. I could probably go back and look and see if I could make a case for that, but off the top of my head, no, he hasn't. And so now is the time when all of the Dak lovers that have been hiding in the weeds for years, like chanting his name, you finally need to start asking some legitimate questions about him. Like I said, it's year 8. You seriously cannot defend him right now because your faith has not been fulfilled. And right now, the past 3 years, he's over 3 against San Francisco. He can't even beat San Francisco. He can't do it. He hasn't shown us that he can beat San Francisco. So,
to that point.
I'll pause for a minute. Then I'm going to continue.
To that point with Prescott, I mean, I don't want him. Obviously, he's our quarterback, so I want him to do as well as he possibly can. But like, if it has felt like whenever you need him to make a big play, that he does not shine at all. And it's fine. And I'm not saying he's a bad quarterback. He's a good quarterback. He just does not do well under pressure whenever the spotlight's on him or anything like that. So, after a while, you just kind of have to look at another option. I wish him well on whatever else he decides to do. I hope he has a really nice life after football, but I don't think he's going to be playing more football for the Cowboys.
And you mentioned some points that I'm gonna add on, Chris. So yeah, definitely keep those in the back of your head because I'm gonna mention them here. But no, you're absolutely right. And real quick, to summarize the game for James and how pathetic Dak was and the offense was in general, 3-and-out punt, 3-and-out punt, fumble, 3-and-out punt, touchdown, and then you've got 30 seconds left to go into halftime, and Dak missed 2 open receivers. Brandon Cooks was gone if he hit him, but he threw the ball out of bounds, and then missed CeeDee Lamb just to take a sack, and then with 2 timeouts left in 30 seconds, they willfully surrendered, walked into halftime. First drive out of halftime, field goal. Then I think it was 3-and-out punt, then interception, interception, interception. He threw back-to-back-to-back interceptions. So going back to what I was saying about Dak and what you were saying, Chris, a question you need to ask is, can your quarterback get over the hump when the tools around him are not either the best in the league or at their best on that particular night? And so far, for 8 years, he has proven that he cannot do that. And again, I'm going to say it again. You cannot defend him at this point. Not just and I'm not talking about this loss was all on him, but he played a huge role in this loss in particular. And like I said, you can't defend him because your faith hasn't been fulfilled. Kind of turning and continuing on it, kind of taking the spotlight away from Dak. Under no pressure this game, Dak was 9 for 17 with 77 yards with 2 interceptions. Under pressure, he was 5 for 13 with 1 interception. So just giving y'all some statistics. But also what's kind of frustrating with this offense is we all knew that Kellen Moore was on the outs, right? You had to do something. Kellen Moore was not working.
Well, and guess who we're playing this week?
Exactly.
Kellen Moore.
But it's showing, but clearly Mike McCarthy does not trust his quarterback to throw the ball. Even after that 3rd interception, which 110% was Dak's fault. He literally threw it right to whoever the defender was. I'm blanking on who it was. McCarthy went over to Dak and was like, he mouthed it. What did you see? And that's obviously, that could be getting in the way of your offense, is that your play caller right now, which should change in my opinion, your play caller does not trust your quarterback to throw the football. And that is a huge issue.
Yes, it is.
Hold on. So you made a statement there. I just want to make sure I'm understanding you correctly. So through, what is this, 5 games, you're ready to remove McCarthy's play caller already?
I mean,
is that what that's what I understood. Is that correct?
I mean, it should potentially, because this offense right now is so bland that's been a topic around the front office and the coaching staff in particular, from what I've heard this week, that McCarthy is at some point, if it doesn't get better, going to relinquish his play calling duties because it's not working. And Dak looks uncomfortable. Oh yeah, for sure. So, and there's a disconnect there where typically in the NFL, you either need a elite head coach with a okay to good quarterback or an elite quarterback with an okay to good head coach. And right now we don't have that. And that's playing a role here in the offensive struggles and our coaching and play calling and discipline struggles. And I mean, that showed Sunday. I mean, Chris, how many ridiculous penalties? I mean, did we see? Like, myself and your brother were like screaming. We're like
there were 5 or
the
6.
TV.
There were 5 or 6 penalties on the defense alone in the first quarter, and one of them. Get this. So one of them, we're watching the game, right, JC? And we had, what was it, 3rd and 5, something like that. And I think on that play we were able to get off the field, but we're watching it, and before this ball gets snapped, I think it was it Donovan Wilson or was it Javon Curse? Was literally
It was Curse off like 2
right
feet
on the
offsides.
yeah, and
2 feet.
Aiden and my brother were both screaming at the TV, going, "Get on side, get on side, get
I
on
was
side."
screaming.
So and you know it was a and that also was a part of it, the beatdown too, because I mean how many plays where you had a 3rd and 5 or 3rd and something and you were able to get off the field, but because of a penalty you couldn't.
Oh,
You know, and
sure.
and that extended a drive that scored. I know at least once or twice.
Oh, for sure. And before I wrap it up with the offense, I want to talk about the defense for a minute. The loss of Trayvon Diggs has been like astounding. Ever since Diggs went out, guys, we are 30th in the league in pass rush. Let that sink in. I heard that statistic, which that was on 105.3 The Fan, and I went to look, and that actually is the case. But like it's so bad, and our secondary is not nearly as good. Over half of their plays that the 49ers ran was cut inside and over the middle. They tore our ass to pieces on defense, which this is, I mean, we're in week 5, and this is, I'm going to throw Dan Quinn some criticism here. Like, there's been 2 weeks where his matchups that he's had have not worked. He's gotten beaten badly on defense against the 49ers and Arizona. And adding on the defense, I've got to talk about Micah Parsons. Against Arizona and against San Francisco, Micah Parsons has been nowhere to be found. And which people were asking the questions, and even I was asking the question, is he hurt or is he just checked out of the season? Because Micah Parsons does not look like the Micah Parsons that we all know and love. Especially that comment after the game about how he believes that the Cowboys are in the same we're on par with the Niners and that we're in the same echelon. Oh my God. Have y'all seen, like, the internet has been ripping him to shreds for that comment and those comments.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, rightfully so. You are not anywhere close to the 49ers. You're just not. Nick Bosa was Nick Bosa was pulling our offensive line and ripping them to shreds like it was like literally was nothing. It just shows that they're just on a different level than we are. And so, no, I mean, it's just that's even on the defensive side. Like, no, so I think that there could be something wrong with Micah because I don't believe Micah is the type of guy. I don't think that's in his character to get checked out. And honestly, he's still young enough in the league. Like, this is his 2nd year, right? Yes, 2nd year? Third year, excuse me. So I can understand like saying that, like you want to back up your team, but I think clinically there might be something wrong with him. So that's just kind of something to think about. And then, dude, listening to kind of wrapping this up with the offense, listening to CeeDee Lamb's comments, like he was about to rip somebody's head off in the locker room. He was so frustrated, and he openly said, I don't know what the identity of this offense is. We are 5 weeks into this, gentlemen. 5 weeks, and CeeDee Lamb only has 1 touchdown catch. Only 1. And that is astounding to me about why this offense and hasn't gotten him more involved and why Dak hasn't tried to get him the ball more. So I could go on here. I seriously could, but all in all, the big culprit here is I don't know what more evidence we need to see. Nice guy. I wish him well, but we have an inferior person operating as our quarterback, and anybody that can sit there and defend him with all due respect is 100% gullible or just blatantly ignorant,
Naive.
naive, doesn't want to believe it. And it's okay to disagree with your team. It's okay. Like you and I, Chris, disagree with the team, maybe even James. But no, this I don't know, gentlemen, what more we need to see. That Dak is clearly not the guy, and McCarthy sure as hell is. And I've got tremendous respect for McCarthy, but McCarthy is not the guy that we need to have leading this brigade. So, all in all, it's been a tough week.
And it's gonna. I mean, I think that's the tough.
Dude,
That
How tough?
it's the
How
tough.
tough?
It's the toughest.
Go ahead.
It's the
Chris.
toughest team that you're. It's the toughest team that you play all year, but by no means does the schedule get any. Well, maybe the Eagles, but by no means does the schedule get any easier.
No.
And
And let's build a scenario, right? Let's say that you even make the playoffs, and you've got to go back to
you're
Santa
not-
Clara and march
you're not
in
betting
to
the
play the
Saints.
49ers. Any type of a mental edge or mental like safety net this team had doesn't exist anymore. This team does not believe that unless you're Micah Parsons. Unless you're Micah
you're not
Parsons,
getting San
clearly.
Francisco. You're not getting San Francisco because you're going to have to win. Like this team isn't winning. They're going to be around 500. I mean,
Yeah.
they had to play
And-
Miami. They had to play Buffalo. They had to play Philly twice. They have to play Detroit, who's a much better team. So, I mean, get your wins when you can, if you want to, or just go ahead and start preparing for the draft because it's not a team that legitimately
It's
has a
funny you mentioned that. This week, the media and the radio and like sports articles, news outlets this week alone have already said, like, come up with articles. And granted, it's just, it could just be for, for likes and to spark arousement, right? But there's been like a handful already that have said the Dak Prescott era might be coming to an end. And it's already talking about the draft. Like, what do you do? Drake May? Do you start Trey Lance? Or do you go another route in the draft? Like, there's been so many because this guy is about to get paid $60 million next year. And I don't know about you. Dak Prescott is not worth $60 million just to be okay. If anything,
he
I got
wasn't
to
worth
give
the
him
first contract.
No, if anything, I got to give him props for being able to play like this and making $60 million. Like, props to you, dude, for robbing the Joneses. And if the Joneses are that stupid to give you the contract, like, more power to you, I guess. But
You can't be mad at that.
no, and that's the other thing. Like, if the Dak Prescott lovers and like supporters out there like love him so much, like, hey, go look at it that way. Your buddy like just is getting paid to do this. I'll give him that. But no, it's like it even from like a business perspective, right? Here's what I would say. Are you really going to pay this guy that you love so dearly $60 million just to be okay to good on his best day? Like, no, think of all that money. We could use that to re-sign CD, pay Micah eventually, re-sign Diggs. There's so much more we could do with that money. And even if we traded him, somebody out there thinks Dak Prescott is an elite quarterback. But and right now Jerry Jones does too. But to summarize it again, gentlemen, I don't know what more we need to see that he is not the guy. So I'm glad I did this tonight because if I had like talked about this on Sunday, I would have been like more irritated and agitated than I am. But it's I've made my piece. Do you have anything to add? Any of you two?
At least we have the Rangers, the Stars, and whatever. Yeah, I'm sure, and even the Mavericks who went to finals since 2020.
And I'm really curious if our buddy that went to Norman, Oklahoma, the school there, has anything to add here Any rebuttal, any agreement? I'm curious where he's standing with this because I know that, and this is not a dig, but James has stood by Dak Prescott for the better part of the majority of his career. So I'm curious if even someone like James is like, yep, all right, yep, that's enough.
I'm not going to add a ton or rebut a ton. The only point I'll make, and we'll want to wrap up the show after this, is I'm going to do my best to not overreact. Was it a horrendous game? Yes. Is it excusable? Absolutely not.
No,
But
not even close. Oh, go
a
ahead.
wise person once said, you want to react like honey and not like water. You don't want to overreact when you have a bad game, right?
Well,
And the reality of it is that was a terrible game. For all the talk, all the situation going into the game, all that is not. The Cowboys should have been prepared to come in like a fight and perform better that game. They didn't. So there's no excuse.
And in every sense of the word, they did not. And like you mentioned, like bad is not, in my opinion, not a strong enough word to describe how catastrophic this was, just intangible wise. You know what I mean? Like it was more than just an L in the L column. It's affecting the team's dynamic. It's affecting the team's locker room chemistry. It's affecting the coaching staff. It's affecting their mental psyche going forward. Like,
and I'm sure all of that is possible and true. However, like I said, I'm not going to overreact because the reality of it is whatever happens is going to play out over the rest of the season. We still have 12 more games to play. That's a whole lot of season to play.
oh, it is.
And if things are going down a negative route, as a lot of people think and you're saying, then we'll see that play out. If it was just a bad game against one of, if not the best team in the league, that's going to show as well. Because in the way of, hey, we're still going to win a lot of games, but when we come up against the best of the best, we may struggle. Everybody struggles against the best of the best. When we should be competing against the best of the best and keeping up with them, we fall short. I mean, that's the same thing the Cowboys have done all along. And that doesn't mean there's any innate additional things wrong. It's just the same old, business issues that the Cowboys have had for years.
But that's the thing that you just mentioned, right? Like, you want to compete with the best of the best, but brother, we didn't even do that. we didn't even do that. And like you mentioned, like I mentioned, like Chris mentioned, after all the talk and all the smack that you did, and how motivationally speaking, not even smack, but just motivational speaking, like, oh my gosh, we're motivated for this. We want to rewrite the script. Like, we want to show that we can compete and we can beat San Francisco. To get literally butt fucked.
All right, that's enough. That's enough for tonight.
All right,
I'm going to end it on that. Nobody needed to hear that. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. And this whole thing's been amateur hour. We'll see you when we see you. Later. God.
They got butt fucked.